Parents, do you want to learn how to position yourself for the maximum college funding? This is Module 2B, which is what we call Strategic College Selection for Parents. This is the module that focuses on financial aid and college selection secrets. I'm very, very excited about sharing this particular module because this is one of the modules that parents are not exposed to on a broad level or are provided the kind of solution-based strategies where they can clearly see that they can take full advantage of the financial aid process when they understand the rules and how to use those rules to their advantage. We're going to be identifying the most financial aid friendly schools. We're going to walk through positioning the parent to pay the fewest dollars and avoid having scholarships and grants forfeited. This strategy can be useful as early as the birth of the student through the third year of college. So Module 2B is very, very important. It has a very wide range where it can be applied. Now, someone starting at age 10 is going to have a better advantage than a parent who waits until the 10th grade. So keep in mind that the timeline, and some of you who watch my videos, you know the timeline is critical to maximizing your opportunity. So let's get into this. I just want to just say also too, okay, let me, I'm getting excited. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So let me talk about the problem, okay? The college funding award letter typically arrives during the winter of the high school senior year, after the selected school has approved the student's admissions and needed documents have been received. So after that point is when the award letter arrives. Now, keep in mind that an award letter is different from a scholarship notification. The award letter is a summary of the funding that is being offered by the school. It does not provide instruction on how those numbers were predetermined. This opens the door to parents and students overpaying for college, forfeiting scholarships and grants, and making college selection choices in the dark. This is a critical area where most of your financial advisors don't understand how to review an award letter to this degree. And a lot of high school counselors just don't have the time to spend a couple of hours with a family, walking them through the award letter and helping them to understand what it means for them and what they should have been doing a year prior, 5 years prior, 10 years prior. High school counselors as a whole just don't get into this kind of detailed, comprehensive award letter review or preview. This module is designed to address these issues and avoid falling into the traps of ignorance and lack of solution-based knowledge. Okay, so how do schools provide funding? Let's walk through this. So remember this, every school has its own internal funding protocol. It can include income and assets of the parents. It can include the school that the student is graduating from. It can include the location of their residence and many, many other factors. This is the one aspect of the funding process that the student nor the parent really control, because this is the formula that's hidden in the vault. You know, if you go to Atlanta, Georgia, to the Coca-Cola headquarters, you know, they have a hidden vault, right, with the super secret recipe for Coca-Cola. Well, schools have this same kind of secret recipe hidden in their internal vaults. And they're not going to share this. You're not going to find this online. You're not going to find this in the counselor's office. You're not going to find this in your favorite high school teacher's drawer. This information is just not made available to the public. The school will use the EFC, the expected family contribution. This is a number that is used to determine the number of scholarships and grants awarded to a student. Now, keep in mind, You have to complete the FAFSA or the free application for federal student aid in order to know what your EFC is. I'll just give you a quick bonus point. All parents, regardless of income, should complete the FAFSA. Why? Because there are dollars that are earmarked just for higher income families. There's this notion that the only people who are awarded funding are lower income families, and it's just not true. Okay, so the EFC has many different factors that determine its number, all right? Then there are the various financial instruments and how the FAFSA treats them. Let me tell you this. If you really want to get into this and you really want a headache, but I know we've got a lot of do-it-yourself parents out there, you can download the latest FAFSA PDF and you can read that application. And in the back of it, in the last maybe 3 or 4 pages, it gets into a narrative of how different situations are looked at. Now, it's not a comprehensive view, although it is a lot of information, but it gives you some insight, albeit this much, into how the FAFSA works. Now, if you want to get your certification in college funding, you can call me and we can have that conversation. But for the sake of what we're trying to do here, you really need to understand how the FAFSA works and what it's going to mean for you and your family. And you'll see as we get into this momentarily. So having a full grasp of the various ways an award letter can be determined is critical to knowing how to position oneself for the most favorable award and reduce the cost of college through cash flow creation and asset repositioning. So in this example here, this is what you're looking at is an EFC / financial aid / financial report, okay? It looks at the same information that the FAFSA looks at. But as a strategist, what I am trained to do is to go step by step through this process to show a family how to use it to their advantage, to position themselves for the maximum amount of funding, to identify tax strategies that can be used to right now, and to improve their budget. And whatever has to be paid for college, this tool is also can be used as an introduction to talking about how do you recapture that money. So let's go through this example here. Now, let me say this. This is another family's, please, parents, please, because this is a huge issue and the reason why a lot of families are overwhelmed with student loan debt, and it's because of poor decision-making. And one of the poor decisions that I see parents make over and over again is to compare themselves to another family without understanding the details that go into how schools award funding. Don't do that to yourself. We'll talk a little bit in a moment about how I can help you get to your specific scenario and the mistakes that you're making, and how do you reverse those mistakes based on your specific scenario. Okay, so let's get into this. So you can see here that this is a single dad who lives in California, and he has 4 children, and one of them is on their way to school. You can see here that we're gonna talk about who he is before the strategies and who he is after the strategies. If you go up here, these are the 4 schools that a student has an interest in. Again, that's not necessarily relevant. It's only relevant to the calculation that the software is going to provide. So what we do is we get the data that the schools submit to the government, and then we use this data with the FAFSA rules and tax rules and other rules to show families how to use this information to their advantage. Okay, so let's get into this. You can see here that its adjusted gross income is $155,000, but after strategies, it's reduced down to $125,000. Again, this is done with the assistance of a tax pro. This class is not going to get into that, but we do have a class that gets into that. Matter of fact, you should make sure that you register for that class. because it's going to really help take you to the next level. We also get into that when we do a one-on-one, when we do the education funding risk assessment. Okay, so you can see his earned income is $175,000. That hasn't changed. You can see that he's putting $10,000 in a 401k IRA or some form of tax deductible untaxed income plan. And then you can see how his federal taxes went down from 20,000 to 15,000 because of the strategies that we used up here. Now, when we look at the parent's assets, we can see here that the parent over here, he had 50,000 in his checking and savings. Over here, he has 75,000 in his checking and savings. You can see over here, he was putting $150,000 into a college 529 savings plan, but over here, he's not putting money into that type of plan. Now, if we look at the retirement funds, we can see the retirement funds are the same. But when we go over to the right and we look at the impact on the estimated expected family contribution, we can see here that his federal methodology, which is used for public schools, and his institutional methodology number, which is used for private schools, you can see here that there was a significant reduction in his expected family contribution. This is really, really important. So not only do we see strategies where the parent is actually increasing their cash flow from tax scholarships, we also see that this family's financial aid improvement has increased to over $72,000 over a 4-year period of time. Now, I'm going to go a little slower here. I'm trying to get done within 10 minutes at the same time. I want you to understand something here. These numbers are a reflection of this family, okay? Please, let me say this again, families. I know you talk to one another. I know parents are other parents, college planners. I know, I get it, I understand. I'm not gonna get into all of that. But I'm gonna tell you this. It is very important that you do not try to compare numbers with one another, because you're going to miss critical details that, if you're not trained in, missing those critical details can cause you to make decisions that come back to haunt you. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean right now. Okay, so let's go to the last page here. So we can see here, these are the 4 schools that this family selected, or the student talked the parent into. You can see what the cost of attendance is based on the residency of this family, which is California. We're not going to get into this whole page. I want to get to the financial aid element of this so you can really understand how the understanding your EFC will impact your scholarships and grants on the back end. So you can see here that this family's financial aid eligibility increased by nearly $13,000 in this scenario. At Georgia State, it increased by over $5,000. Over UCLA, to remain the same, but on the University of Michigan, it improved by $16,000. Now, I'm going to ask you a silly question. If you were aware that your choice of school was causing you to overpay for college, how do you feel about that? Because this is a huge problem when parents just don't understand how schools compare to one another in their historical funding patterns as it relates to their specific expected family contribution. You can see here, if we go to the bottom, that this particular family qualifies for nearly $8,000 more at Michigan State, nearly $5,000 more for Georgia State. Again, it's the same for UCLA, but they qualify for $8,000 more at the University of Michigan. These numbers must be reviewed so that you understand what you're walking away from when you're comparing your schools of interest. Now, I would love to take this into the award letter appeal, but I've run out of time. I want to talk with you about having a conversation about doing your education funding risk assessment. Now, here's what you need to know, regardless if you decide to reach out to us or not. Here are the objectives that you must consider. You need to know the EFC. You need to know what determines your number. You need to know your timelines for reducing your number. You need to find cash flow strategies that increase your opportunities. You need to review how reducing your EFC can improve eligibility for funding. And then you want to review strategies. This is very important, how all of this blends together for asset repositioning that can fund college with 100% recapturing and protect the integrity of your present budget needs and your retirement. This is very, very important, ladies and gentlemen. This is the next level. This is the level of solution-based conversation that the average parent is just not getting, which is feeding into this massive student loan debt problem that this country has, that where there are some very, very simple solutions to the problem and avoiding falling into that trap. So listen, if you want to complete your education funding needs analysis, get that done immediately. There's no time to wait for this. I cannot tell you how many parents continue to tell me over and over again, Jeff, I should have come to see you a year ago. I should have come to see you 5 years ago. I've heard it all, parents, so you don't have to tell me, okay? You need to set up an education funding needs analysis, do your risk assessment ASAP. If you don't want to come to me, fine, find someone else, but you need to have someone that understands how to identify the mistakes that you're making so that they can be corrected and you can be put on the right track for 100% recapturing and paying zero for college and maximize your scholarships and grants. We will review your EFC and provide all of the advantages that we just discussed. So this is what you need to do to complete your education funding risk assessment. You need to set up a 60-minute review at calendly.com/your money coach. And then we're going to go through your mistakes, okay? You should have a link somewhere around where you're looking at this video for the education funding risk assessment. If for some reason, because as you know, technology is technology and it doesn't always work the way we want it to work, you can reach out to us at Jeff T at Pay Zero for College. Again, that's Jeff T at Pay Zero for College, all letters.com, and just request the education funding risk assessment. We'll get that right to you along with the instructions. I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with you and talking about identifying your mistakes, because that is the first step in the process. Yes, it can start as early as before your student is even born. Those are the parents who are the most prepared. Those are the parents who pay the least for college. Those are the parents who actually make a profit on their plan to fund an education. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Jeff Taylor here, Certified College Funding Specialist. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.